Hi, my name's Megan and welcome back to my channel. So today, halfway through March, we're going to talk about the books I've been reading in February. Even though I really didn't read that much, February was stressful. I was working a lot and I just didn't have time to read because I was tired. So we're going to talk about the one audiobook that I read and the 2 books I bought myself to read. I also have a book coming today from Amazon. So we're getting back in our reading bag. Alright, don't forget to do all the YouTuber things, like and subscribe, and let's get started. Roll intro. Alright, so the audiobook that I'm going to talk about today, is called The Killing Dance by Laurel K. Hamilton. And I think that's the 5th book in the Anita Blake series, because like I said in the last video, which I was listening to books from I was listening to books I used to read in high school, and that's like the #1 series that I would read. And I remember kind of stopping at that one because at that point I couldn't really find the other books at my library. And this one was very interesting. Just for context, this series is a vampire hunter series. It's about a woman named Anita Blake. And she is a necromancer, which means she can like raise zombies from the dead. And she has like, you know, powers over the dead basically. And she's in a love triangle with Jean-Claude, who is a vampire. He's the master of the city, so basically he's like the head vampire, if you will. And Richard, who is an alpha werewolf. He's also a middle school science teacher. And she's dating the both of them because Jean-Claude threatened her that if she doesn't give him a chance, she's gonna murder Richard. So we love that. And in the last 2 or 3 books, I would say in the last 2 books, the author has been kind of building up to the fact that Richard is gonna have to eventually kill the current alpha werewolf of the pack, who is named Marcus, because his wife Raina, who I think is also an alpha, and who is Lumpa, which means Marcus's wolf mate, right? And basically Raina's been out of control. She's been making snuff films with people in the pack, and a lot of people have been unalived in those movies, so now the police are getting involved. And Richard's doing his best to protect everyone in his like mini pack, but Richard is also very much a pacifist, and he doesn't believe in unintentional killing, which, you know, Anita is like, shoot now, ask questions later. But at this point in the book, someone has put a hit out on Anita. Spoiler alerts from this end. I clocked it very early that Marcus was the one who put a hit out on her. I saw that a mile away. I just didn't understand the reasoning. So here's the reasoning. So there is a trio that came into the city. We have God, I'm forgetting names now. I believe Dominic, who is a necromancer, Cassandra, who is another alpha werewolf, and I do not remember the vampire's name right now, because I feel like he wasn't that important, if I'm being totally honest. We'll name him, his name started with an S. I do not remember right now. We'll just name him Simon. I can't remember right now. So they're a trio who came in because they wanted Anita's help, because Simon stopped drinking human blood. He's a master vampire. And because of that, his whole body is rotting, like he's basically dying. His eyes are decaying, his skin is decaying, he smells horrible. He wears a cape and a hood everywhere so he can hide what his body looks like. And he basically says he did this for the woman that he loved because she was disgusted that he would drink human blood. So she asked him to go vegetarian, and him basically dying and rotting is the result of that. So Dominic and Simon wanted Anita's help to see if they could fix him, basically. So back to the first point I was making, is that Richard needs to fight Marcus. So there can be more control in the pack. They can reel in Raina. And I also feel like it's more gain on John Claw's end, because he would have the entire wolf pack under his control. So, and I do think this audiobook is kind of like a slow burn up until like damn near until the end. There's just a lot of exposition, there's a lot of explaining, because they form I think it's called Travoyant. I think that's what it's called. Basically it's a trio of power. So if one of them is in trouble, they can tap into the power of the other one. So Cassandra, Dominic, and Simon are already Trevulant. I don't remember what it's called. So now Anita, John Claude, and Richard are trying to form one as well. So Richard can be powerful, so he can now defeat Marcus. And they do, and while they are doing this, I'm going to skip around, I'm sorry. As they do this, she raised the vampires that were currently in their coffins that are underneath the Circus of the Damned, which is John Claw's resting place. So after a lot of talking, a lot of arguing, they put the vampires back. Let's fast forward to Richard fighting Marcus, which is the whole point. So they go out in these outfits or whatever. Like Anita's wearing like a leather bra and leather shorts and like a harness, and I forget what Richard wears. He wears like riding boots and like leather pants and like a cape and stuff. So they go to this like clearing near a barn outside of St. Louis. Basically Richard gives Marcus one more chance to be like, hey, let's talk this out, I don't want to kill you. And Marcus is like, well, you should, because I put a hit out on your girl because I needed to get rid of her. So, you know, that fuels Richard's rage. And again, I'm not shocked that it was Marcus. As soon as they said there was a hit out on her, I was like, okay, it was definitely Marcus. Basically, Richard and Marcus fight. And honestly, the fight was very, very quick. I think it was like maybe like a chapter and a half for them to be building up this fight for so long. Basically, they like scrap, they're clawing at each other, they're biting each other. And all the while, Raina, who is Marcus's maid, has a silver knife, and she's planning on like taking little jabs at Richard. Anita, who is locked and loaded and ready, has, you know, a pew pew trained on Raina and her flunky, so if anyone tries to stab Richard, she's gonna pew pew them. But like I said, the fight was quick. Richard basically pretends to like fall over Marcus and like snatches up his heart out of his chest, and he pulls it out and throws it to the other werewolves in the pack, because all this is happening during a full moon, so everyone's getting very beastly. And after Richard defeats Marcus, he starts to change, because, you know, full moon things, and with his power flowing, it forces everyone else to change. And Anita's just standing there freaking out because, you know, she's a human and everyone's getting into a frenzy. Like, people are starting to eat Marcus's body at this point. And Richard is starting to change, and his voice is getting real guttural and growly, and it's just freaking her out. And he basically tells her, either you stay here or you come with us and hunt. Either you're with us or you're not. And she's like, I'm not, I'm getting out of here. And at some point Richard like grabs her and he like falls over and changes to a werewolf on top of her. And the explanation of it sounds disgusting. Like, clear goop like gushes out of his body at some point, and then fur replaces his skin, and his mouth lengthens to become a muzzle. It sounds disgusting. And basically it freaks Anita out because she is now covered in this clear goop. And then She basically thinks she's werewolf food at this point, which I don't blame her. I would be terrified too. So she's like, peace, I'm out of here. And she ends up going back to the circus of the damned because, again, she had a hit out on her. She was hiding out there. But Marcus is now dead, so the hit's gone. And she's trying to like get into the underground of the circus, and the door's locked and she doesn't have a key. She's pounding on the door, and just all of her emotions from the night kind of comes out, and she starts like crying. Like, she literally falls to the floor and starts crying because she's just so frustrated and so freaked out, because she comes to the realization that she can't accept Richard's beast. It freaks her out too much. She can't do it. And the whole time in the series, she's kind of like toying the line of who's a monster and who's not, because a lot of people see her as a monster, and I feel like she feels like she's becoming more of a monster the more the books go on. And the closest thing that she felt was human was Richard, until she saw him change into a werewolf, and now her feelings are complicated, and she feels like she can't be with him anymore because he's a monster. But also she has Jean-Claude, who she loves. Jean-Claude is relatively human. He still looks like a human. He's not a beast, but he's still a monster because he's a vampire and he's dead. So speaking of Jean-Claude, he, I guess, is coming down from upstairs, and he sees her like crying, and he's trying to comfort her, and he's like, what's wrong? And he's like, what's wrong? Because Richard's not dead. He would know if he's dead. And she's just hysterically crying about him changing, and she's just so disgusted, and she thought she could handle it and she couldn't, and she's just so disappointed, mainly in herself, that she just couldn't accept what he was. And he's comforting her, and eventually she's like, I need to get all this goop off of me because I just feel gross. I need a hot bath. So Jean-Claude takes her to his bedroom, draws her a bath. She's like, hey, no funny business. He's like, you just go take a bath and, you know, calm yourself. So he leaves, and she bathes, and she again comes to the realization that she just can't handle the fact that, as she says, Richard becomes furry once a month, and she's just so sad that she's gonna lose this fantastic person because he's perfect in every way, but he becomes furry once a month, which I feel like is not entirely true, because they definitely want different things in life. Like, Richard wants a white picket fence, he wants a family, and she can't even imagine herself as a mom or being Susie homemaker, and that's another thing that has been a conflict of interest in their relationship. So she bathes, she's clean, and Jean-Claude comes back, and after talking in the windows, they end up doing the do, which I feel like was definitely like a moment of weakness, because she just felt so shattered. So she wanted to feel close to someone. That's the other person that she felt close to. So the next day, she wakes up in Jean-Claude's bed. He's not there because obviously he's in his coffin. And she's getting dressed, and Richard storms into Jean-Claude's bedroom. And basically he's pissed because he's like, you saw me change and you ran into the arms of Jean-Claude. And Anita's like, I'm sorry. And then Richard basically destroys the bed that he assumed they had Max in. And then he storms off and leaves. And Anita's, again, just sad and crying. And so Cassandra comes back. And context about Cassandra, her whole thing was she wanted to be a part of Richard's wolf pack. So she's been working with Jean-Claude and guarding Anita while there was a hit out on her, because she wants to be a part of Richard's pack. And Anita and Cassandra have kind of become pretty friendly, because they kind of both think the same way. They're both like headstrong women, and she actually really likes Cassandra, and I feel like if things didn't take the turn it did, they could have became friends. But Cassandra makes a joke about rough Max, and she's like, no, Richard just found out that me and Jean-Claude did it and he destroyed the bed. She's like, oh, that sucks, I hate to hear that. And then something crosses over Cassandra's mind, and she says, Anita, I really hate that I like you this much. It makes everything so difficult. And he was like, what? And Cassandra decks her in the face. and Anita falls to the floor, hits her head, and passes out. Shocking. I didn't even remember that part. And so she wakes up, and Anita is, I don't know if she was naked or not. I don't think she was. No, she wasn't. She was wearing like jeans and like a polo shirt. She wakes up tied to a bed, and she's in the barnyard where Raina and Gabriel, who is a weird leopard and kind of like Raina's flunky, she's in the barn where they make their snuff films. And basically, earlier in the book, Cassandra told her that Gabriel, trigger warning, Gabriel has had fantasies about R-wording Anita, and he wanted to do it on camera because he knows that she will try to kill him if he tries, and he wanted it on camera because Gabriel is all types of effed up. So now they're trying to do it. Since Marcus is dead and Raina's pissed and hates Anita, Gabriel and Raina are going to try to R-word and unalive Anita on camera as a part of their snuff films. And apparently this was all a ploy because the trio that I mentioned earlier that involves Cassandra, Simon, and Dominic, they needed sacrifices so they can try to cure Simon this entire time. So they're going to sacrifice Anita, Jean-Claude, and Richard. And apparently Richard and Jean-Claude have been lured somewhere else in the clearing so they can perform a spell to get rid of the boys as a part of a sacrifice. So all of this is revealed to Anita, and she's freaking out, and then she tries to calm her mind to try and figure out how to get out of this situation so she can get to the boys. So she basically instigates with, is that even the right word I want to use? She kind of tempts Gabriel and tells him that he should give her knives. She trying to bait Gabriel into giving her knives because she knows that Gabriel, being a very sick person, would want Anita to hurt Gabriel while he's trying to R-word her on camera. And of course, Gabriel being a sadist does this. And after a lot of fighting, a lot of tussling, Anita gets away, ends up stabbing Gabriel, and apparently they obviously they stripped her of her weapons, but they put all of her GUNs on the table. Why would you do that? What if she did get away and was able to get to her GUNs? Like, why would you just leave them on the table near the set? Whatever. Like I said, she ends up unaliving Gabriel. She ends up, stabbing him in the stomach. And then she goes for her GUNs, and meanwhile Raina is trying to get after her to stop her. And she ends up pew-pewing Raina in the chest, and then she ends up leaving and getting out there and getting to the boys. And honestly, I don't remember how she rescued the boys. I really do not remember. But she ends up finding them, and they're in a circle of magic. Edward, who is also a hitman and who told her about the hit on her, is there, and because he's not magical or anything, he's able to cross the circle, and basically he pew-pews Simon, Cassandra, and Dominic. So the whole sacrifice thing is over now. And next, Anita ends up freeing the boys, and Richard is almost dying at this point because at some point in the circle, Dominic takes out Simon's heart, puts it on a sword, ends up stabbing Richard. Anita and Jean-Claude use the power of the Trevulant, I don't remember how to say it, to save Richard's life. And Anita kind of blacks out, and she ends up in the hospital. And Edward's there, and he ends up telling her, hey, everything's okay, the boys are okay, you're okay, everything's okay. And that's basically the end of the book. And I would say from the 4 or 5 of the series I've read, I still think Circus of the Damned is still my favorite. That's the 3rd book. And Guilty Pleasures, the 1st book, is a close second. I would rank this one probably number 3. I wasn't that crazy about the 2nd book. So I would give The Killing Dance, it's my 3rd favorite. I would give it a 7. It's cool. I like hearing about that action more than the love triangle, if I'm being totally honest. That's why I like The Circus of the Damned more. So yeah, I definitely recommend it if you're like a dark romance person. I feel like you will really like it. It's just there's a lot of like mountain climbing to get to the point of conflict, and then the conflict happens so quickly, but at least they added like a second conflict, so there's no loose ends for like the next book. But I would recommend this book. I give it a solid 7. I do like it and I will read it again. Okay, like I said, I'm currently reading Haunting Adeline, which is crazy. And then I'm also going to read Children of Blood and Bone next. And I already bought the second Haunting Adeline book, which is Hunting Adeline. It's getting delivered today. So I'm going to read this one. I'm going to continue reading this one, then the second one. Then I'm going to read Children of Blood and Bone. And I also am going to listen to Skin of the Sea. I haven't saved it in my Spotify. I'm going to listen to it. I already listened to like the first 2 chapters in February, but I'm going to finish it this time. And I'm like, oh no, great. I'm like halfway through reading this one right now. I've been reading like 3 chapters every day, so there's that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys are reading or give me any book recommendations. I currently have like a mini list of stuff I'm gonna read, so give me a book and I'll add it to the list. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!